It's 1900 hours, and I call this meeting to order. Public notice having been duly given and a quorum being present, the meeting is duly constituted, and the first order of business is approval of the agenda of the meeting. So, in light of developments, I would suggest that we defer discussion of 7A, 7B, and 7C, as well as 10B, as much for the fact that I think there's still some work that we want to do on that. Am I correct in that, Helen? On the council procedures bylaw?
I'm not
You
sure
still
there
had
was
some-
work.
You still had some questions.
Only that
I
one
think
question.
we should defer anyhow.
Defer anyway?
Yeah.
You cool with that?
Yeah.
Okay, good. The outdoor water use bylaw we need to do so that we have timing to get it in play. The fees and charges amendment is part of the outdoor water use, so we sort of have to do that as well.
Yes.
The tree amendment bylaw.
It's just replacing a schedule.
Yeah,
An old
it's just a
with
schedule.
new one.
So it's not the, it's not sort of the, it's not going to stand in the way of any future trees, views, and landscapes
Yep.
bylaw. So that's fine. Okay, so we leave that one in play. And the bylaw notice enforcement,
Yes, we need to do that one.
we do need to do that.
That's the outdoor water use fee, bylaw fines. So we should get that moved along.
That's in there,
Yep.
as opposed to in.
Fees and charges
Fees
is
and
the
charges?
permit fee.
Oh, okay, got it. Fine. There were one or two things I wanted to ask about that one anyway, so
Okay.
that's good. As well as 12B. Perfect timing. We're just talking about agenda items.
Okay.
So, sorry, 12B is different.
I'm suggesting, is it vital to discuss today?
There's no rush in these.
Is there not in terms of discussion? No, there's not. That's good. As well as Bear Smart Committee appointment.
That was yours.
Yeah. I mean, I can talk to it. It's very brief, but
Your call?
okay. Well, let me talk to it. So we'll keep that one. And community container. Is that something we need to discuss today?
Sure.
I don't even know what that is.
I think that Ron added that. Was
Ron, is that yours?
Okay.
Was that Ron?
Yes.
Ron, are you needful of community container?
Yeah, that's gonna be, it can be.
You can?
Sweet.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, what do we think? Everybody good? Can I have a motion? And a second? Further discussion? All in favour? Opposed?
I don't
Carried.
know what you're raising your hand to.
So, that's good. That'll free up some time. And we'll move straight on to public participation.
What a nice audience.
Trying
Going?
to coax her into it every
Yeah,
week.
somebody. Participate. Going, gone. And delegation, seeing none, we'll move on to adoption of the minutes of the regular council meeting of May 5th. On page 3, I had absolutely nothing on these,
Okay.
except maybe one question. No, that was on the other one. Anybody else?
I have none, Claudia.
Fred? Helen? Okay, so motion to adopt. Second? All in favour? Opposed? Seeing none, that carries. Sorry, I have to take care of this. Deputy Chair, can you adopt the next set of minutes? Is that cool, Mandy?
Yeah, or we can.
Jim can take over.
Yeah.
I want to take 3 minutes. Somebody's trying to make all my plans.
Okay. May the 12th, special council meeting.
So we have 12 minutes. So, has everybody reviewed the minutes?
Mm-hmm.
I have no changes. Helen?
Your notes look a lot like mine.
Yeah, that's here. Deputy Mayor Hughes, I put forward the motion to accept the minutes.
Seconders? Sure. All
Yep.
all in favor? Thank you, Councilman Walken.
You're welcome.
Business arrival for the minutes.
going over the action items. So the first one there on page 4 of 142, 6A, that's completed.
Good, thanks. Do we have to resolve anything on that one? Good. The next one was the priority list. We've deferred that. Likewise, the KPI thing, that's deferred. The tree cutting report from the spring clean, I didn't see that report yet.
No, I checked with Nikki and she doesn't have the written report from the
Okay, as soon as it
arborist yet,
comes,
but
will I
she
get
knows
to see it?
Yes. So
Sorry,
we'll
guys.
carry that one over, Shauna.
That was this one?
The one under,
Uh,
yeah, no.
D1.
D1.
Okay, 9A,
That's moot now.
that's moot, it's done. Good, that's good.
So, the
10A,
next one we've tabled the, I did make the updates.
You
There
did?
was one comment I wanted to provide, but we've pulled it anyway, so.
yeah, let's defer that one. Okay, good, so that's all moot. I like that word. 11. I did that. It was quite difficult to get the email there because it kept bouncing back, but I solved it eventually. Done.
And Councillor Watterson and I are still working on the details of that last one.
Yeah, I was just wondering, do we want to, should we just keep it simple and keep it just a trail run, or do we want to add on the extra,
Well, we were going to talk about that subsequent to that discussion.
because it's not far off, so if we,
You may get more people because, you know, people who don't feel up to the run portion may be inclined to participate in something a little less vigorous.
yeah.
But you're right, we're getting down to the,
But now you're doing a yoga thing as well, right?
Either yoga or Pilates, like.
Right, I mean,
Yeah, like a
some sort of
family
static
thing, because
thing.
originally I had suggested maybe a ultimate frisbee thing, but
Yeah.
if one of our resident fitness instructor can do something with the village, I'm thinking that would be a good tie-in.
Mm.
And Ian Grant said he would,
Let's you and me talk about this one.
yeah, okay.
In terms of whether we want to make it a full-on trail cleanup or
Oh, but this-
deadfall.
no,
oh no, this
no.
is National Health and Fitness Day.
Oh, sorry. beg your
Nothing to
pardon.
do with
Yeah,
trail
Yeah, I
cleanup.
thought I was confusing the two.
Yoga and trees.
Yoga.
Yoga and trees.
Because I was thinking yoga on the school field. That was where I started.
That'll get everybody fired up.
Then we're going to
Yeah,
just say, while you're here,
Okay.
take one of these bags.
Surprise.
So, should we discuss it on Friday?
Sure, yeah,
Okay.
can.
Good.
Okay, good. So let's move on to the special meeting. That was pretty much
Perfunctory.
perfunctory. Thank you. So nothing arose out of that. Am I correct?
I don't think there were any action items in there. I think it was all adoptions. Yes.
Good. Okay, so we'll move on to having skipped 7A, B, and C. Yeah. We'll move on to 8A. Mandy.
Is that my report?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry there isn't one in the package. Last week was a lot of time spent on FOI stuff, upwards of 20 hours. So between that and I've been chipping away at the first blush of the annual report and the materials for the outdoor water use bylaw and how we're going to communicate that. So that's kind of what the last week or so has looked like, and I'm proceeding to chip through. Our plan is to get the materials out in the mailer with the property taxes so that they go to every house.
And get paid attention to.
Yeah, and then updates in the e-post and posted around the village as per usual. So we're working on that.
Does the sign, you know, the sign form part of that? I know Nikki was coming up with
Nikki's she sent the graphic
Mm.
to get the quote from the West End Sign Shop. They're usually really good. So
but we are going to get a proof on that one.
we will, yeah. Yeah, we won't just get them made. We'll circulate that to the infrastructure committee.
And we're talking 3, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I think we decided 4 by 8. Is that what we talked about?
Or something like that, yeah,
Yeah.
pretty sure that's what it was.
4
Yeah.
by 8.
Well, when you figure that, look at the way the sign's gonna be laid out,
4x8 or 3x6, I thought.
Yeah, it might have been.
Okay, well, we'll
Nikki's
come,
got the notes.
we'll mark that up
Yeah.
just to be sure. 4 by
Yeah.
8 is the size of this table.
We didn't wanna take it and make it too small, so it wasn't noticeable.
No, sure, yeah.
Yeah.
That must be comparable with the fire one.
Well, it's gotta be comparable to
Yeah.
fire ones, and that's just it.
Yeah.
Those are good sized signs.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else?
That's the big stuff from last week, odds and ends, other.
Yeah, okay, that's good for now. Okay, so mayor and council beautification project. Is that you, Ron?
It is, if I can do both the beautification and the 2016 budget thing, and a kind of a quick jump here. On the beautification thing, thanks to the Works Department for doing a lot of all of the lawn mowing and the weed whacking. That made it pretty easy, so I can tell you that 7 residents undertook on their own dime tree topping, trimming, cleaning, yada 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 kind of stuff. And certainly around my neighborhood, dear to Councillor Watterson's heart, I need sunglasses for all the pots in the driveways.
Yeah, that's
So I think that my lesson learned, if other councillors are going to adopt a street or a project, that planning well in advance, getting community captains, not doing it all yourself. I mean, you're the voice of council, but the residents need to voice it. And the voice I keep coming with is that they'd all be happier if the village paid for it.
Yeah.
And so to that, which got me thinking that, well, even when the tree fallers are in my neighborhood again next week, you know, we've cut a deal with them that people can throw loose fiber into it to just clean up their boulevards kind of thing, so that'll work out nicely. So beautification thing, we're done. I will challenge everybody to pick a street next year, and we'll see if we can do another 200 homes. Part of the deal on the budget piece here is that as we're going out to, and we're not wearing raincoats and umbrellas and rushing to our cars now, we're seeing more folks. What I'm hearing is that a very odd potpourri of requests for everything, like, as I mentioned, the fiber cleanup, to revisitation of the, what I believe we can call junk day, where everybody piled all their crap at the works department. You know, and there's been suggestions for art projects such as in the highway underpass where the bus stops are. Everything seems to be in kind of $5,000 increments, just to pick a number. So I'm taking the view of no promises, but give me the ideas, give me the names, I'll compile them all so that when we come to the budget next year, we've got lots of ammo and nothing slips under the radar, really. It's just, you know, truly, we're all going to be at different parties over the thing, and somebody may have a great idea. So it's kind of I'm just asking for anybody got an idea that may come up for budget, because I will project that given our current financial situation and the time to borrow, should all of the engineering studies come forward, it'll be another year before we actually get into the heavy lifting and cash expenditures. So unlike this year, it may be a more resident-friendly type budget coming.
There'll certainly be more wiggle room whether we sequester that money for the next year. Is that a question?
You know, when we rank the ideas beyond what staff's going to do for the normal capital projects, that is on the operating units' wish lists, then there's the resident wish lists, and I guess if you know, as I say, if we're at a party and somebody mentions that, well, you know, this time next year is too late.
Absolutely.
So all I'm asking
It's
is
good
that
timing.
if you think if it's an idea worth talking, just send it to me and I'll compile them and I'll bring them forward next year. That's it. Thanks. Yes.
Oh, sorry, can I make a comment?
Yep.
It just strikes me that it would be a good idea if we could have those ideas generated on the website from residents when they have an idea like that. We can listen at parties and things like that.
Yep.
I think it would be a good idea to let residents know that they can put these things on the website and we'll look at them. If nothing else, just create a spot where there's a list.
Do you have a suggestions at email address, Mandy?
We have our feedback email address.
Feedback, yeah,
We
that's
use-
probably
we put,
good. Yeah,
We put
it's
that
even better
in
than
our
suggestions.
yeah. We put that in our so we could just do a e-post on
We do
our
get a lot
e-post,
of-
a blanket
we
hit,
do
make
get a
your
lot of
suggestions,
attention
and yeah, we
on
do.
the website. We're getting more and
Yeah.
more.
Yeah.
And I think it's a good idea, maybe a reminder even in the mayor's message,
Mm-hmm.
you know, or something like that. I think it'd be
I
a good idea.
I made a
because-
note to revisit in September when the mayor writes and we do it. I mean,
Yeah.
even if we mention it once a month, 2 lines.
I like the idea, it's just that I think
I
we
mean,
need
it's
to
stuff.
make it flow better. that's all.
There you
And
go.
we're talking, sorry, we're talking 2016 council, or budget
2016
submissions,
budget.
that's kind of, okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, which means that, we need to sort of know where we're going in 4 or 5 months' time. But
Well,
within 4 or 5
on the
months.
budget piece, I suspect you and I will meet late in the summer and do the 40,000 foot thing with staff and then work our way down
Yeah,
over the ensuing months so that we're well into this by the late fall.
yeah, okay, well, let's see how that develops.
And just an idea, so think about it.
Just
Write
back
it
to
down.
your report, Mandy. The annual report, where do we stand on that?
I've just started,
Okay,
yeah,
okay, that's good. So,
yeah.
I
Most
know
of
I've asked you this
the-
100 times. Remind me of the timeline on that thing?
We have to have it out to the public no later than June 30th. The public gets 2 weeks with it before council can adopt it.
So comment period is June, what, 3rd?
June 30th at the latest.
June 30th, plus 2 weeks. Okay.
So the earliest you can adopt is the 14th.
In theory, we could issue it earlier, but
Yes,
that's
yeah.
as good a deadline as
That's
any.
right.
So, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And is it acceptable like they do in corporate annual reports where, so you report on the year that you're reporting on, but then you say in subsequent developments, because this is now 6 months after the cutoff, do you say subsequent developments, we hired a 55 plus coordinator and we've already had 5 wildfires and blah, blah, blah.
So the format I've put it in is, or started the draft in. It's council's report, and we can change it however you wish. But the format we've started with is basically rather than a one pager on every single thing that happened, we've narrowed it down to administration, operations, finance, and there's another one I'm missing, fire, and being those key things and covering kind of all the high points from last year, and there actually were a lot. And the focus for 2015. But I think in that focus for 2015, we can touch on things that we've already accomplished and are moving through and are in process. That's kind of the way we're approaching it.
Good. Yeah, that sounds like a good approach. Okay, thanks. That was just a return to A. So back to B. Ron, that's
Done.
it. Thanks. Committees. We'll start with Fred.
Nothing happened much other than what you already know about with the outdoor water use bylaw. I think we had on table for determination factors that came out, but I think we've shared all that, so we're just waiting for the passage of the bylaw right now.
And so the determination factor, I think we've settled on a replenishment rate, and we're just going to somewhat arbitrarily say at a certain, if the tank hasn't filled by a certain time, clock time, then we move to level 2 and level 3. And do we know what those times are? That's up to staff, right?
Yes, and so we had that on table document that's really quite robust.
Yep.
And sorry, I didn't bring my
Was that from
IC
the last
binder
meeting?
with me. Yes, it was on table. I think Greg drafted it. He brought it
Well,
on
yeah.
table.
At the end of that meeting, we then said staff would then come up with an operating parameter that says if the tanks have not replenished by X hours, then
Yeah, that was the takeaway for Nikki, and
That was the takeaway.
mine was the materials. Hers was the sign and the takeaway to refine that.
It's a learning experience for us. We have to start somewhere, draw a line in the sand, and say this is where we're gonna start. Everything that's in there is good. What you had said in the mayor's update or the message depth about what was gonna happen, it sounded really good the way it was laid out. So as long as we come close to that with our first draft of this, it's gonna be just fine, and I think that's.
well,
good.
we deliberately left the what's the word again, Fred? Starts with an A. What assessment? The thing that determines when you set the level.
The determination. level?
Determination. Thank you. I've just got a block on that word. We deliberately left it up to staff, so it doesn't fall within some council calendar black hole.
Yes. Yeah, it fell into internal procedures, and that allows us to refine it if
And
there's
there's
any.
always wiggle room on the fire reserve. So assuming that we don't have a fire on that particular replenishment day, if we get it wrong, well, then we set the time earlier for the next day. Ron?
Thank you. We're set to think we could go back to the CAO.
Just remembering stuff.
3 things. One very minor. Could I get an electronic copy of the year-end statement?
Yes.
And I'll send that to other finance committee members too. And 2 is as a takeaway as action items for however you delegate it is 2. It's works department related. But let's call it the smell remediation at Kelvin Grove Treatment Plant. I understand there's some budget and execution issues. If you could bring that forward for next time. And I think the CFO and the works manager know what the story is there. And
I thought I saw an
secondly,
email today, yeah.
in a soft way, I've been talking with the works manager about on a no or incredibly low, invisible type cost way, the black pipe on Upper Ocean View. She's expressed an interest and is nodding her head, and so this is a beautification, but it's got to be on a low no budget. So we just leave those as actions, not get done when
Yeah,
it gets done.
so I know that second one's on Nikki's radar because she mentioned it today when we met. So
Okay.
she's
So it's-
she's looking into that.
The second one being,
The
black pipe.
reducing the
Black
size of
pipe.
it, so that it
Reducing
can-
the size
Yeah,
of it.
it's too big for what it needs.
yeah,
Yes,
well,
they-
let's not lose sight, I mean, you know, that pipe is potentially all that's keeping the whole of Ocean View sliding away, or not, we don't know.
I think this is their area, not mine. The suggestion is just beautification, so a smaller pipe.
Just make it smaller.
And let's just leave it at that and let the works manager do it. I mean, I don't want it, no digging, no, I mean, they can cover it if they want, whatever they'd like to do. The work's not gonna be done, so it's really just a beautification piece.
Yeah.
Those pipes are meant to be larger than they can handle for a very good reason, but, and I understand why it's there. It is ugly. No
That's
two
for
ways
sure.
about it. But the thing is that it is important that it's a decent size to handle anything in an emergency or anything coming
Yeah,
up.
I mean, it's supposed to
Yeah.
essentially line that piece of the swale so
That's
that
right.
that water bypasses the part where it was running through underneath the ground down into somebody's swimming pool.
That's right.
Works manager hasn't said no, so
Yeah.
I'm.
That's fine, as
so
long as
just
she's,
leave it at that.
She's researching.
as we know, the IMP is specifically going to be looking at redoing the drainage specifically in that area, going back to where it used to be.
Yeah.
So, okay, that sounds good.
Small, low ticket items both.
Okay.
Thank you.
Maybe we can sell that pipe. Maybe it'll be a money-making project. Okay, Fred, thanks. Jim, government committee and or a bylaw
We
procedure?
are, we're currently waiting on the zoning bylaw process. We've got a draft of it.
Are we going to see that on Thursday?
We'll see that on Thursday,
Monday?
on
Monday,
Monday.
Monday,
Not Thursday,
25th.
yeah.
Okay, what else are we going to be looking at?
Right now, that's
Nothing's
the
been
biggest.
tasked down
that-
here
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
at this
Yeah.
point. So
Bring it on.
You'll be sorry you said that.
No,
There's
no,
plenty.
That's what we're for.
That's good. Okay, thanks. Helen, community?
Nothing has happened.
Nothing we
there.
don't know about?
Nope.
What about the yoga? Okay, we talked about that. Okay, good. So that's it on committees. Well, Ron, we didn't talk about finance?
Nothing.
Yeah,
Just
it's
stand down there.
quiescent at this stage. Okay, good. Emergency service report, page 15. It seems like there's quite a lot more happening all of a sudden. Is that? I haven't looked at the
it's
graph.
warmer weather, maybe.
Yeah.
There's more
Right, some of
cars
these
on the
things are a
road. There's
little
more
more-
people out and about.
There's a lot more traffic stuff, so I guess they've
Mhm.
sort of been putting a push on there. But even within the village, there's, I don't exactly call it a crime wave, but assault. Unspecified assistance CN, that's usually chasing people away from the nude beach. Breach of the peace, suspicious occurrence, breach of probation, harassing communication. I mean, what's going on? Is this anything that we're... I guess it's just a little spike. Theft of auto, over 5,000.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any auto under 5,000. But okay, so we all seen that. Same for the false alarms. It's the usual suspects. So we'll move on to resolution 9A, page 17. This is to change the... Is it signing authority or charging authority, or both?
It's both
Yeah.
on the
Okay.
card. Yeah, this is how we place our office supply orders through Staples,
Yeah.
and the card still has Farouk Zaba on it, so we need to fix that.
Fine. So you've seen the report and the recommendation from staff. Can I have a motion to adopt and a second? Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll call the question. All in favour? And opposed? That carries. Thank you. And now moving on to the outdoor water use bylaw adoption on page 19. The only thing I had there, Mandy, was, is it feasible to change the font to the standard village font, you know, that all the other ones are in, which is, I think, I don't know what. This one
yes.
being Tahoma.
Yeah, I can change
Can
it.
you do that?
That's an administrative change.
We're not changing the words or
No.
anything, so
Yeah, I can do that. That's
the
fine.
adoption is not going to
Yeah,
affect that.
I think, what are we using? I'll find out. Anyways, I think it's.
It looks like Calibri.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Calibri is nicer than this Tahoma, which is a
Yeah.
bit artsy. Okay, so this is adoption, no further discussion. Timing's good, everything's good. Can I have a motion for adoption and a second? Any further discussion? There being none, I'll call the question. All in favour? And opposed? And none. That motion carries unanimously. Thank you. And we've deferred 10B, the council procedures bylaw. We'll now move on to the fees and charges amendment bylaw number 490, page 55.
So this is also adoption, I believe.
Yes, because you read it in the meeting. I didn't know that you were going to, but it's... Oh, well, I did, because of what to do with
Yeah,
water.
the only thing that changed was
We just
adding
added
in
the water
the
thing, yeah.
lawn
Yeah.
sprinkling permit application fee. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so there's no other changes. Now would be a good time to change... Oh, no, we've got to adopt it now, so we've got to restart the process. Okay, so may I have a motion? Thanks. And second? And further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favour? And opposed? None, so that carries unanimously. And the tree amendment bylaw, first, second, and third reading, that is on page 59.
So just for a little bit of background on this, I've been working with the chair of the tree committee on, and I have talked about this in past council meetings, about refining the application process so that more of it's happening with the applicant, and then by the time it comes into the office, the process is much quicker. And the biggest part of that was refining the application form and the documents associated with the application form, which are in front of you. We've made an electronic copy, so most of it can be completed online and then just printed. You don't have to hand fill it out. And then when it's all done, it comes into the office with the permit fee, and we just verify the information at that point. We don't need to go out and do a whole lot of admin work the way we were before. Because the old application forms are a schedule to the tree bylaw, we have to repeal them in order to adopt a new permit form. So that's what this amendment bylaw is. It's only replacing the Schedule A, which is the application package. It doesn't alter the bylaw in any other way.
Yeah, so got it, and I like the form. Except so we're doing first, second, and third today.
We can do whatever you would like to do.
Okay, so I mean the only other, it's a minor point under the reason for removal. Should we not have other? Explain below. Because this presupposes that those are the only available reasons. I mean,
Add other.
it's sort of a minor comment. And then on page 2 of the bylaw, which is page 60 of the package, it needs to say tree bylaw, amendment bylaw, just to match the title.
Sorry, on page.
Page 60 of the package.
Oh, I'm ahead. Okay. Tree. Yes, you're right. Okay.
And so then the reference underneath, forming part of bylaw number 393, that's all.
Yes, that's the
Good.
existing. Yes, the existing bylaw. So if council wishes, you could do first and second reading. I could go make those changes, and then it could come forward at the next meeting.
Yeah, and again, under section 1 is tree bylaw amendment bylaw.
Tree. Yes. That's
Is there a way
that's
to
the
change
issue.
this so that we don't have to repeal it every time we change the schedule? Or is that
Don't-
just how bylaws
Don't
work?
put forms in the bylaws as schedules.
Can we take it out now and say fill in the requisite form, the stipulated form? Because then then staff can change the form at will.
You could actually, what we could do is table this and simply make a resolution to repeal Schedule A from the bylaw, from the existing bylaw, and then it's out forever.
Yeah, and then do we not need to say it and something about then fill in the stipulated form?
No, because the bylaw refers to the stipulated form.
Oh, yeah,
It
okay.
would,
even
it would
better.
be in the office. So that's another way to do it.
Can't we
if you
just do
want
it
to. Yeah. Yep. So we'll need two resolutions. First of all is to withdraw tree bylaw amendment bylaw
Yeah,
with no readings.
yeah.
So we'll need a motion.
Okay, so can we have a motion on that one? We'll discuss it next. Motion in a second. Thanks. Discussion. So Mandy, tell us.
So yeah, if you don't want to have to go through this every time you update your forms, the easiest way is to not have the forms as a schedule.
Yeah.
So we'll withdraw
And yet they are
this.
referred to here somewhere. Where exactly?
They're referred to in the tree bylaw.
Okay, so I'm looking at that and I see.
That's not the tree bylaw in front of you. It's the amendment
Ah.
bylaw. Yeah.
Can we repeal the amendment bylaw as well?
Well, it's not had any readings, so
Oh,
this
okay.
can just go away at this point.
Okay, so then we
haven't
would
done
just
any
change the
reading.
tree bylaw.
Yes.
Amend
So
the
the
tree
motion
bylaw.
will be that council amends the tree bylaw number 393 by repealing Schedule A.
And that'll do it. It'll do the trick. Okay, so we can have a motion on that one. Thanks. And a second. Further discussion on that? Seems too easy to be true.
Good thinking.
This is where you come in.
It's a
This
good
is
idea.
all part of the amalgamation and reduction in the number of bylaws. we
That's
have.
right.
It's a
And
good suggestion.
Okay, well, I mean, in theory, we could actually do this for many more, where schedules have been made part of the thing, including the fee schedule, the blah, blah, blah. Okay, one thing at a time. Okay, so any further discussion? So I'll call the question. All in favor of the motion, which is to amend the tree bylaw number 393 to remove Schedule A? In favor? Opposed? None? That carries. We don't have to do readings and everything on that.
Nope, that's gone now.
It's just done.
It just is no more.
Okay, fantastic. I must remember that approach. Bylaw enforcement bylaw.
So this is coming forward for a couple of reasons, and actually for the benefit of the mayor, I'll touch on this just because you weren't able to
Yeah.
join us the first time this was, and second time it was read. The primary purpose for this coming forward was to incorporate, and I believe it's on the last page of the bylaw, the
Yes.
fines associated to outdoor water use bylaw. But as I was incorporating those, I noticed that a lot of the references in this bylaw were wrong. They were to old bylaws, and then
Yeah.
the bylaws hadn't been updated, and so I changed everything else in here too.
Fantastic. So that was just a good opportunity to update.
Yeah, it's mostly housekeeping. There was one that came out as part of secondary suites because there's no more grandfathering, so that's just been removed. Yeah.
Yeah, correct. My only comment is to get some consistency on the use of the word number, N-O period, and the number sign. Or is that because the bylaws are numbered in that way?
That may be. I haven't looked at it that closely. I apologize. So it could be one or the other, but I can certainly.
But we can do that now. We just to get consistency.
Yeah,
there?
again, that doesn't change the context of the bylaw,
No.
so I can take that away and do that.
Even after third reading.
Yeah.
You sure?
Yes.
You happy
yeah.
with that? Okay, good. Then my only other question was on the name of it, the amending bylaw notice enforcement bylaw.
Yes.
Is that what it's actually called?
That is what it's called.
Amending bylaw?
Yeah. It's an amendment to an old bylaw. It just becomes a new amendment every time.
So in my head, it's amending bylaw, comma. No, it's the amending bylaw notice enforcement bylaw. Okay, if you're happy with the terminology. Anybody else?
I have a question here.
Yeah.
On the last page of it, under the outdoor water use bylaw, under penalty and early payment penalty, I think you got those columns backwards. For example, the penalty is 75 for failure to follow.
Oh, you're right. They are inverted.
I see, we all just sort of
Yeah.
glossed over that.
Yeah.
Good.
Just the first two. The last one's fine. Yeah, good catch. So it's just the first and second one. The third one's fine because that's the
Water.
late
Hey,
one.
do you want
Yeah.
to join the policy and bylaw?
Yeah.
Bylaw, it's just bylaw. You just can't pay people to take that job.
Okay, so we'll do. I'll make these in time for third.
Okay.
So we don't do third? When will we
We
do
don't have to
third?
do third. Well, we can do it as amended, as we've discussed here, as long as there's nothing else. I mean, it's up to you.
Yeah,
You want to do it as
Streamline the
amended?
process as
Yeah,
much as
okay.
possible.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. So this resolution will be passes third reading as amended.
As recorded.
Yeah.
Fine, okay. So the bylaw number and all that stuff is correct, I'm always just assuming. So can we have a motion to adopt as amended? No, third reading as amended.
To pass third reading as amended.
Yeah, okay, and a second? Any further discussion? I'll call the question to, what third reading?
To pass
third reading.
reading of bylaw number 492,
492.
bylaw,
Amending
amending
bylaw.
bylaw notice enforcement bylaw as amended.
That's the name of it, amending bylaw.
Yeah, I just took it from the old one, so.
Okay. Okay, so all in favour? Thanks, and opposed? Seeing none, that carries unanimously. And we'll move on to correspondence, page 77. You've read them. I don't believe that I saw any requirements for response except one. I wanted to ask you about that, Mandy. That was page... It's not to say we can't come back if you have anything, but I just what is on top of my head. In fact, it may be in new business, but I'll tell you in a second. No, it starts on... Well, it's really correspondence. Do we respond to these things? Does somebody? Do we designate?
I don't know where you
So
are.
starting on page
Sorry.
128.
Okay. 1, 2, 8. Yeah, so this was addressed to mayor and council. I believe you got it. That's what we vetted out. So,
We did.
yeah.
Is
so
there any
staff,
reason
if
to...
it's addressed to mayor and council, and it's been sent to mayor and council, we generally will not respond
Yes, and why is it redacted?
because it contains personal information.
Is
And
it,
so
but is
we've
it not
asked-
automatically public?
No, we have a process of asking people when they submit their emails if they would like their information redacted.
That's a bit of a fuss. Can we not make a policy that if you send it to council it's automatically in the public
We
domain?
can, but you still run into the conundrum of people saying, well, I didn't know, I had no idea. And it is still personal information protected under FOI.
Okay, fine. So I will take care of the one on page 128. Who wants to take the one on page 129? This may actually be indicative of a problem that we need to discuss, and that is, I wouldn't call it abuse exactly, but certainly excessive private use of the beach. At a certain point, how do you stop this?
Remember, there's so many issues in this.
I know,
I
yeah.
mean, I wouldn't know where to begin. I mean, if I had, police watercraft and the CN types and our own bylaw people there, we could deal with it, but that's just not how this works.
And who gets to put a concrete barrel in without asking? I mean, somebody just does it, right? As typically happens. I suppose we're within our rights to remove it. If we knew who it was, we'd charge them for that. I'm sure we don't know who it is. Do we need at some point a policy on? I mean, this is provincial.
It is, and it depends how far out in the water that is, because our jurisdiction ends however many feet out there, and it becomes an oceans thing.
But that's quite far out. I believe our limit is 150 feet out or something. It's quite far.
Last year, Andrew had an issue with a derelict kind of house party boat that was out there, and when he went out there to try and enforce it, it was just ugly and nasty and profanatory, and
I know there are issues because I know Squamish had a problem with a raft that was anchored in the Manquam Channel. It was just there was nothing they could do about it. And eventually, DFO, I think, my friends, got rid of it. But if you look at it, just happens to be the map just before page 99, you see the boundary of Lions Bay goes out quite far into the bay, and that's correct. That's that is a specific known limit. Our
on
jurisdiction.
the water as well.
Yeah, into the water. It's a good.
Well, I'll confirm that, and then I think yes, there's merit. Maybe the policy and bylaw review committee can we can brainstorm a policy of the way we're going to deal with these so that we do it properly.
Well, actually, the boundaries that are on the map were done by a consultant some years ago. It implies that we have a foreshore lease that we don't have. We do not have any foreshore lease. The only one here is at the
Artistic
marina.
rendition.
Oh, it's just artistic?
Yeah.
Yeah. Those of us that have mooring buoys out front, they require no village permission or anything because we're dealing with Department of Oceans and Fisheries and the Coast Guard regulations.
Well, I mean, I know this from having attended John Weston's thing. You know, he's very worried about derelict vessels, and Bowen was telling horror stories, but they have no ability to get rid of these things. Even if they wash up, they're not allowed to touch them because they're within provincial ambit. So, yeah, well, maybe if we don't have, if
I'll find
these
out.
lines are not right,
I will find
I mean,
out.
I've seen a lot of maps,
But
not just the
that-
artistic ones.
That's quite a bit, that's quite a ways out,
It's far.
it's far out.
I've seen maps, they may all have been artistic, that show the line out in the sea. But I've also seen some fairly official looking maps. But we don't have a foreshore lease, that much I know.
Right.
Yeah, I can certainly find out where our jurisdiction ends and how that plays into village bylaws.
So then we face two scenarios. If we have no jurisdiction,
Then there's nothing we can do.
I mean, at Brigade Bay here, some cowboy has gone put a float with it's got stairs, it's got a second level, it's completely unseaworthy, there's a barbecue on it. There's nothing that can be done.
No.
It just needs to disappear one night, I suppose, but nobody's done that yet for 2 years.
Sure. I'd recommend that we table this piece of correspondence. There's bigger issues here, and it actually become table to action item kind of thing, because there's a bunch of issues here.
Okay, why don't I do this then? I'll respond to them saying, thanks, you've raised a lot more points than you realize. We're going to look into it.
You fine with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a quick response.
Okay.
Everybody good with that response?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so the next one is on the beach washrooms. Is this where you would like to address things?
Yes, thank you, Member, if I can lead this particular piece. This resident's brought up the Central Beach washrooms and previously, and, you know, related current and past budget ancillary topics raised by the resident. I'm happy to respond. Just a bit of background on both the general background, Kelvin Grove and Central Beach washrooms. In 2012, the new council with the new budget, I believe Fred and I were rookies then, but there was no funding for the beach washrooms. It was a fairly tight budget period, and it just didn't hit the radar. It wasn't on my radar personally. In 2013, I became the chair of the Finance Committee as former Mayor Broughton ceded that to me, and I put it on the radar. And the reasons were less about aesthetics, but as much about financial practicality here, since we were pumping out a dead drainage field for over 10 years, every 18 months. And the scenario that I had presented to me at the time was after 4 years it would actually be cash flow accretive to us. So I put forward a budget which was approved by council. The budget's $40,000, and that would be in 2013. The budget was not executed on. In 2014, this came forward again. This is specific to Central. The budget was moved to 50 to accommodate what was then, courtesy of the Infrastructure Committee, a suggested higher cost for the drainage field. Certainly it was hoped that there was something left for the structure. Details unknown because there's no bids. The new public works manager arrived in August 2014, and I can tell you the project was executed and completed in November 2014. I will give the documentation on it for his files. In my mind, the original budget, or the original tender for the drainage field was $36,000, and that was accepted. Within a few weeks thereafter, though, the works manager put forward a recommendation which had 3 change orders on it, which round numbers ultimately aggregated to $11,000. So 36 and 11 is 47 of the 50, and that's where we are. So that's executed, and the drainage field is done.
Thank you.
Okay, so that takes care of the Central. Also in 2014.
But can I just interject there?
Yep.
The original budget approval was for 35 in round numbers, and then
No,
it was
it's 50.
But that was on the explicit understanding of 35 for the septic field and 15 for the beach washroom.
No,
It was not.
no.
Yet it got reported out as that. Because both you and the infrastructure committee at the time believed that to be the case.
I remember that.
Well, I certainly thought it was going to be less than 50 for the drainage field.
Mhm.
And it looks like it was less than 50 at the 36 number that the bid came in. That bid of 36 is higher than a soft bid that the former works manager had given to me, which was in the high teens, low 20s. So for me, I'm not doing the work, but it seems to me there should have been something left. Anyhow, for your files, there's the full background.
So
on it.
now so council then approved this budget add. In theory, it should have been added to the 50, I would have said, but okay.
No, the 50 was the 50. There was no, within the text of the item there, it didn't have to come back to council for approval.
Yeah, and I'm seeing that. I don't know, not being part of the deal at the time, that the 50, I don't know what was approved for to be spent for the 50. But if it was just the septic field, okay, although that would seem a little odd because everybody, including you, believes that it included.
I believed it would have been less, but I see turned
No,
out
no,
to be
the
close.
50 was the number. That was always the number we were told. on the
There was
infrastructure.
number 50 was talked about, okay? But I remember that in that process, we were going back and forth about that for quite a while, about how it was to be structured and what was to be done. And there was a lot of people on the committee that talked about the fact that if we did it right, to spend a little bit more on the system itself was gonna take some cost off of the field itself, because we wouldn't need as much of a field in that whole.
do
We
remember this
talked about
discussion.
that to excess, and we even talked about the fact of making it a model system that could be used in the village, so that get residents interested in putting these systems all over the place. And that one of the ideas was to get a small system that would work effectively, efficiently, and keep the cost of the field down. I remember that conversation.
Okay, so those issues are all moot
To dot
because
the I in this, 50, 47 spent on the drainage related stuff. Also in 2014, a budget of 15,000 was allocated to the Kelvin Grove washroom. I can tell you this, that this was just, this was the first resident, let's call it village partnership, because a village resident did the scope and design and work with the works manager to come up with the renovations. Ultimately, council had the yay or nay, and so we worked with that, and the job was done, or the people were happy with it that volunteered their time and effort. So the key point here is the scope and design was done by a resident, council approval on the funding. That was executed in fall of 2014. So I think if I can go to the resident's email, or the excerpt of the email, embedded within this thing is 4 questions which I'll answer, and then I got some suggestions. So to go through his point,
What page is that on?
this is number 130, Councillor Hughes. And so I'll just read verbatim. The question we have from several residents is why the dog park area washroom was renovated prior to the beach one last year, period. So I've given you the background on that. It's just the way it is. So the bullet points in that is, firstly, these are 2 separate projects. They're both funded. They're both executed at the discretion and time of the works manager. And substantially for the Central Beach, as I've told you, we've run out of money. Question number 2. In addition, we want to know how much can the village spare for the project? And he's referring to the Central Beach washroom. I can tell you the answer is 0. Question number 3, if none, we need to know the rationale and comprehensive answer as to how Ron and council last year got approval for allocation of funds for dog washroom. It's not a dog washroom, although some have suggested this, and phone me on this. It is not a dog washroom, it's a people washroom. It's used by divers, the village residents and guests. The answer to that is that, as with all budgets, and in this particular case in 2014, it was put forward, the budget was set, the budget was publicly announced, publicly displayed, and it was subsequently publicly approved and then executed. Nothing there. The last question, we also assume that if the village has no funds at all, then no other projects related to enhancement of our community would be undertaken this year. 4, correct, except for the raft for $6,000.
No, well, I would take exception to that sentence. That's completely
using-
illogical. That
I'm
makes-
using a broad enhancement
Yeah.
terminology, so I think.
No, but we're going to spend it on better priorities.
Well, there we go. After my dialogue and any questions asked that council may have, I would ask that staff provide information as to the following, and I'll give staff my notes here. 1, potential tax receipt qualifications or possibilities for any cash donors. 2, if, using this as an academic exercise, if staff could leave budget, material, and soft costs out of the discussion for a moment. Presume scope and design was approved by a resident-led group, for the sake of argument. There's a suggestion, it's not confirmed, that the resident group could provide a project manager and qualified professional crew at their cost to undertake the labor component of the proposed project. So if staff could provide a very brief report or point of view at a 20,000 foot level, what would the village require to protect itself if this would occur? And from my personal experience, I'm a board member of the Salvation Army, and we frequently ask and have major builders donate their crews for philanthropically funded projects. So putting our yes hats on and exploring the alternatives, that's what I'm asking staff to do. So again, putting the presumptions to the side, it is likely that this project would still need to go to tender. If a resident-led bid, shall we say, came forward as part of the tender process, it may be lower due to labor costs, if the scenario is correct. So there's a lot of ifs and moving parts in this, but my recommendations are twofold. One, that the CAO, with council's blessing, confirm expenditure of up to, say, $500 for a review of the washrooms for potential structural, environment, or habitat issues. I do know that when we did do the work on the Kelvin Grove washroom, it was built during the golden age of asbestos, and the $5,000 cleanup bill, since our people wouldn't take it, did that. And on the habitat issue, I'm sad to say we displaced about 100 rats. So I think this is something for us, we the council, to decide whether this is going to be a fix or a rebuild to know. So those would be my 2 suggestions, the takeaway by the staff and the suggestion of looking at our existing structure, which should be within the Public Works Manager's budget for professional services.
I have a question put on the table. Now, I'm maybe out of date on this, but I remember when they came in and started applying transit tax on the parking lots. Okay, the marina got hit, there was a tax put on all that kind of stuff down there. And I'm wondering if any of that was applied to that gravel parking lot down there, that the public one by the railroad track there.
Transit tax?
Transit tax, parking tax. They came through here and implemented a parking tax. I know the marina pays it. Okay.
Who's the day that implemented the tax?
Metro, or sorry, TransLink. Now, I'm wondering if that's the case and that's actually in place, I'm wondering if we can apply to them for some funding. Because that's what that parking that's in that lot down there is for. A lot of it's used by people that are on that beach all the time.
I don't know anything about TransLink applying a tax. First of all, that property, the marina property, is private. So I don't know how they would.
Well, I remember the furor on it a few years ago, and they were pretty upset about it.
The marina.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if it applied down there to the park, because right after that we started charging or getting the marina to collect parking for the village on that lot down there. I'm wondering if that had anything to do with it. I don't know. I wasn't on council at that time. It's a question.
Is this anything that rings a bell? Certainly doesn't for me. I mean, we spent a little bit of time looking at this. The CN lot is owned by CN. We lease it for $1,200 a year.
Yeah.
Just signed the check a week ago. We are allowed to use it for parking and fire training.
I could be out to lunch. I'm just saying, it's a thought that I remember having conversations about that, and I know there was some application of that TransLink parking tax down there. And if that's the case, I'm wondering if there's access to funding from there for that particular, something like that, for work on the washrooms at the beach park.
I will ask TransLink because I'm on the board.
Yeah, sure.
After all, in theory, They've been very responsive to other questions as well. So I will ask
It's
about
just a
that.
question. That is
But I don't think so, Jim.
No, you're probably right.
I don't think there's any TransLink tax on parking. That actually just raises another question in my head. We are charging for parking in the CN lot today.
Yeah.
Oh.
So to respond to the mayor, or to the resident, Mayor Brewer, I would recommend that council members not approach this resident directly because it creates other issues.
I think we need to respond to this email, though.
I think we need to respond to the email and a brief that numerous items are being invested. Well, we can tailor that as we will. But I mean, just on the tax issue, the potential from the staff side, looking at a yes, what do we need to get to yes if in fact this resident-led group provides the scenario that I laid out, don't know.
Well, let me ask Mandy, do you get a sense that this is at all feasible? That a resident-led group can plan, fund, and execute a municipal project?
I don't see why it would be any different than a donation. There's a couple things to consider though, just off the top of my head, and it would need a lot of research. But if any municipal funds are going to go into the project at all, then we have to do a proper tendering
bid it,
process.
yeah.
We would have to provide the insurance. So, I mean, if it's going to completely be by donation, we can probably research enough information to help that group do that. But I mean, it's different. It's different than somebody just donating to us the money and saying, "Go
Yeah,
do the
go ahead,
project."
Boots, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
So
I'm worried about stuff like
needs
title.
It needs some more research.
And $20,000 budget is optimistic.
It's undoable. The Kelvin Road was $15,000 and it's a third of the size.
Union?
Maybe.
Well, it would be contracted anyway.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But,
So, off the top of your head? No?
Again, I think that given that we've asked staff that's approaching this positively to do the work, costs are unknown because we wouldn't know that till this bid. Theoretically, if the labor component was free, well, they're going to be the lower bid off that, as I've said, fine. We're not going to pay for that, so that's not an issue for the thing. All the work safe and the insurance piece, fine. Council has the hammer on scope and design all day long. We probably have to work something out on change orders so that it came back.
It's a can of worms. I mean, with that alone, you can.
I mean, I'm trying to be. I'm not going to shoot the golden goose here. The
No.
goose that lays the golden egg, and the resident is keen, and it's alleged that these things may occur. In my heart of hearts, I would actually. I can't see it happening this summer. It's
The beach is in use.
it's in use. We don't work sites, open work sites. We can't really fence it. It's got problems, and for the sake of delaying it for the fall, when it can get rolled into our budget and investigated fully, using our very positive thoughts on this one, we could work with a team of residents and maybe pull this together, and we could have what amounts to a private and public partnership to get to where everybody wants to go.
Well, you know, when you mentioned that, there is separate P3 funding available under the New Build Canada Fund that they're desperate for projects because they can't find any because nobody's applying for them. Now, this is a small one, but it's still a P3. Yeah, well, I think you're right, Ron. It's too late. We can't do it now.
Well, I think
It's going to have to be next year's project.
I mean, if that's what we're going to do when we respond to the resident, I mean, I would roll up my sleeves to see what can be done, but I think that given what I mentioned earlier, although it was unrelated to this, that we're looking for projects that are, let's call it more resident-friendly next year, this is probably going to rank in the top quartile. And so, you know, if the residents are still keen, fine. If they're less keen, well, then it goes back to council and we go on here.
Is the first order of business to get a staff report on demolish or
I do the
renovate?
recommendation to find out whether there's asbestos in it, and
Can we do that within a sort of an existing budget skill set level?
I'll have Nikki look into it. I know she has a bit of a consulting budget, so, you know, we
we're
can
probably
certainly.
talking $300.
Yeah.
Dave, would you care to
It's not
comment
a
on that?
huge building.
Only problem I see here is one of the problems would be if someone was injured through what's said BC,
Yeah.
because to be registered with the board, you have to be an employee of the village. I can't see how, you know, you'd have to be registered with the board, so as a volunteer, you wouldn't be registered with the board.
Right.
Someone was injured, fell off a roof, sudden on a nail, you know, what kind of liability would we
Right.
you know.
Yeah, that's a good point.
What do we think,
Another question, maybe as questionable as the last one, but the issue is, the letter talks about unsanitary conditions, okay? So is that true? Do we have unsanitary conditions down there? Because if we do, then that changes the rules about how we respond and how we would apply to it. And it may also give us more ammunition if we're applying for funding. So but this is all just innuendo in the letter. We don't know, so it involves an investigation
Yeah.
or a look at to see what in fact the problem is and go from there and approach it from there. And if that's the case, and we do find that, then we can respond back to the resident saying, well, this is what the issue is.
Well, I mean, we have an issue then.
Yeah, well, exactly, but at least, but we don't wanna walk open
Well,
into
we should-
this.
yeah, I'd suggest we
Public, private
expand
thing.
the work manager's
Yeah.
assignment on this one then for the two. That's an excellent suggestion. I mean, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more hearsay than anything. I don't know that it's unsanitary. What
I
is that
can't see
actually?
it myself,
Well,
but if it
knowing
is,
what we know, they.
It may not be
they-
occupiable, it may be asbestos, we don't know. So there's really two issues here, responding to the resident, and then the bigger project, which we're not gonna solve today.
asbestos is only an issue if it's exposed and friable, period.
Yeah.
That's it. So that's the end of it. So that's not an issue unless someone's gone there with a hammer and clawed it and it's got dust all over the place in there.
Okay, so Ron, I think your suggestion is a good one. I think we task staff with providing a recommendation.
On the two pieces, I guess, the sanitation piece, so, I mean,
Oh,
I
yeah,
haven't
combine
looked
them,
at the
but-
washer myself, I suspect, and the other one is on the, a separate report on the utility of the building, I guess.
Yes, and so then the second part is a longer term recommendation how we might approach this with a resident led or resident contributed effort using bonded licensed contractors who are donated. That's a whole separate issue. So the response to the resident, I can take that, or
Why don't we have the resident come in, and we should chat with them from there?
yeah, on what in what regard?
I'd be happy to repeat the whole thing here and mention to the resident, with this particular resident, I worry that an email out equals 5 back. And that, what he says may not have been what you said.
Yeah.
So I think
Yeah. So just sit down.
just ask him to come in for a coffee,
Fine.
or we meet with him for a coffee.
Okay. So we'll do
And,
that.
and I'll
We'll
just give him the quick skinny all over again,
so KBRM meet.
if that's fine with everybody else. I mean,
Well, that's not a resolution issue. That's just a nod around the table. Everybody happy with that?
I'm
Yeah.
offering to do this, and that's fine.
Okay, so you want to set that up, or shall I? Then that is addressed to me, but that's I suppose it's just
I
addressed to me.
believe you've got the mayor title.
Okay, so I'll set that up. That won't be this week. It'll be next week. I think will work. Fine. So now, do we need a resolution to task staff with that?
No, it's an action item.
Just an action
It's
item?
for us to
Satisfied, yeah?
research and report back.
Fine.
If it
Okay.
looks like there's gonna be I don't know, huge budget component, then I
Yeah.
bring that back, but I don't think there will be.
I guess on the other two requests on the tax receipt thing, which I think that'll be a quicker answer. On the other one, I think, please do not do an exhaustive piece here. There's just so many moving parts.
This is a scoping thing. That's all.
It's
We'll
just,
start with-
a good smell test is fine, and that way, if we're gonna work with the resident team, then they'll know what we know.
Good. Okay. Good. Thank you. So, any other touch points on the correspondence section? So, motion to receive correspondence. Thank you. And a second on that. And all in favour? And opposed? Who would oppose receiving correspondence? That carries. And we will move on to new business. Signage review.
Yes, I placed in there an email that I sent council, I believe, last week, just
Oh,
providing.
sorry, hang on, Maddie. Sorry to interrupt. So under new business here on the agenda, I see that we have the Lions Bay Beach washrooms. So I guess that sort of
Okay.
came out in the wash, right?
Right, yeah.
Is that adequate to cover off that one, 12A?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've done that. Sorry, so let's...
Oh,
I've
sorry, I
jumped
didn't
the gun
realize we
here.
weren't there yet.
Yeah, I've jumped the gun. Volunteer day we've deferred. Parking in the village.
Okay,
Now
same
we're
thing,
talking.
signage,
Yeah.
parking. So I had circulated an email to council with some older background information from, I think, mid last year, just about how the topic of signage reviews and parking in the village had come up with the last council and the resolutions that had been made at that time. I think in an effort to move this forward, and it's covered there in my email, we could certainly start the process with a public feedback that council wishes to undertake, review into signage, not necessarily just parking and traffic signage, but signage overall in the village, and encouraging them to submit their feedback so that we can vet it and look at what the process might be moving forward.
I mean, this, for some reason, this is the first time I've seen these.
That's never come forward. Never went forward to council, that piece.
I mean, without going and looking in every spot myself, it looks pretty good to me. I mean, I would suggest that, you know, the resident parking only sign looks quite nice. You know, it has a picture of our decal and is in nice font rather than, you know, a gun with crosshairs. But that's a detail. So
And I think
what?
Sorry, if I can just touch on what you've just said, I think to the topic of changing all the signs, first of all the signs have to be consistent. Changing all the signs on the village right now will be expensive.
Well, resident parking only is only in 3 spots. It's along Lions Bay Ave, not Timber Top, Sunset, and that's it. 2 spots.
Although I think it was proposed for Timber Top.
Why Timber Top?
I don't know. I have no idea.
People go. I mean, what's at the top of
I
Timber
don't know.
Top?
I just.
Well, the other thing would start that.
I go to the Lions, so
Yeah.
most people park on Timber Top, you'll find on a weekend.
Because they go in, then they go around the
all way
corner.
down
That's where they're ending in
Sunset
the-
From there,
in the ditch
go
there,
through the
isn't it?
hikers.
That's
Timber
really
Top
the
or
only
mountain?
reason for those
Yeah.
signs, just for that reason, to stop people from taking the spots for the homeowners or whatever.
You know, I would think that if we did things a little more comprehensively, I mean, my proposition would be to, at the underpass, to have a sign that says, either dynamically measures the available parking when we get the parking situation taken care of, but now says no public parking beyond this sign, or public parking beyond the sign full. So I mean, you know, then you're talking about a system that counts cars in and out and stuff, but those systems exist that get paid for pretty quickly, I believe, if you charge something like $25 a day. But I would always want to see the signage to be positive, saying, you know, you're welcome to try and park here, but there's no point in going beyond here because it's not available. Rather than like, no parking, no parking. There's thousands of no parking signs everywhere. Because, you know, we'll get to the other point. So the parking will be sorted out, but somebody will complain about too many signs, which is
So
valid.
my question at this point is, I guess seeking some direction from council about how you want to move this forward. The last council resolved to undertake a parking and signage overview.
And here it is.
And here's the information brought forward, so some direction around this table about how you'd like us to move that forward is what we need at this point. I would love to start it with the public feedback piece and hear what people's concerns really are in the first instance, and then vet the process from there.
I think rather than investing a bunch of time into it, I think that's probably the most sensible solution. I think that'll hold the most weight with residents if and when we decide to change something.
But why don't we start with this as the catalyst of that discussion, with a map and everything, so people can understand, maybe even photographs of where it would go.
But I think the first thing we have to do is ask the question and listen to what the complaints are before we just decide, you know.
Without
willy-nilly.
guiding the conversation.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah.
I think we just need
Well, I mean,
to-
I'm sure we've all done that as members of council. I certainly, you know, I'm very cognizant of parking issues at Brunswick. I'm very cognizant of parking issues down Lions Bay Ave, where all the hikers park.
Yeah.
I don't want to presuppose people's answers, but we have talked to people.
Yeah.
It's all anecdotal, of course.
But we are.
I agree. We do need to gauge opinion.
We are a small village with finite financing and ability to do these things, and whatever we do needs to be in concert with what the residents' requests or really want, and they're going to tell us quickly. If you go down Isleview and ask if people want, you know, resident parking only signs, you'll get a no response because nobody wants them.
It's not an issue down there.
Yeah, that's right. But it certainly is at the end of the cul-de-sac where the fire trucks have to turn around, and so, you know, so things like that are common sense. So, but if the
You know,
residents
so
have a
there, for
complaint-
example, I see in well-regulated communities, the sign says, fire truck turning,
Yeah,
no parking in cul-de-sac.
Yeah.
Rather than no parking. Why? It looks pretty good to me.
no, that's fine, but all I'm saying, we can change that over time. But for now, where are the complaints, where are the holes? What do people wanna see? Because if it's just, we're doing it just because somebody simply asked a question. Where's the complaint, what it is? In the past, I remember years ago, what they actually did was when a resident complained, they went down, they looked at it, works manager went down, looked at it, came back to council, and they decided whether or not there was to be a sign put there.
Okay, so what guidance do we want to give to staff on this? Public hearing,
Why not?
a request, an invitation to send feedback to feedback@lionsbay.ca.
I
I
think
think
that's
that's
probably
the
the
first
most-
blush.
Just to
That's
start.
probably the,
Well, that's very
First
simple.
start.
Goes out in the Friday letter.
yeah, sure. I don't think there's any point in
Step
doing any
one.
more.
In fact, I can do that in the mayor's thing.
Just
so
sort of like,
people read
stick
that.
your finger in the water and
That
see
would
what the
be good.
temperature is.
Just that simple.
And cover
it
the
bites.
permits behind it.
Cool. I don't want to go off wrong on this one, so we're not gonna do it this Friday. I'll draft something and circulate it forward, so that we meet the intent. This is the para that I would propose to put in the mayor's letter on soliciting feedback from the village on parking. Okay, so why am I getting all the action items? But all right. Okay, so I will draft text. In fact, I'm gonna write it here. For mayor's desk thing on parking, what do we call it? Rationalization or just parking?
Parking review.
Parking review, thank you.
We can fairly much follow the report that Mandy.
Yeah.
I would try and.
For the text, I won't give the
I don't think
specifics.
we want to, it's not meant to be an overall review, it's meant to be, are there complaints?
Do that, do that.
You know,
It's to help us
It's
do
to
the
help us
review.
to, yeah, do.
I'll also point out that it's a component of the infrastructure master plan. It's a
Yeah.
comprehensive review
Of course,
of what makes
because
sense.
we're looking at all
In
that
terms of
stuff.
traffic flow and everything.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, I can tell you, in my neck of the woods, it's wrong. I've almost been T-boned 3 times by people not realizing I'm a go and they're a stop. They don't know that. So, lots of things need review more than just signs. So this would be a progressive thing.
I'd like to have a police presence down underneath the overpass on the highway there, and just watch, they should tickets, everybody drives through that stop sign.
Oh, yeah.
No, I don't like that idea.
Exactly.
I'm not in favor of that.
I almost
I've
foolishly
seen down
made that
there.
an election promise.
I know.
They did have radar down here last week. I don't
Yeah,
know
no, I
if
know,
anybody got.
they
Well,
they're
here
down
you see
quite
the
a bit.
numbers.
Yeah, that's good.
At least once a week,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's good.
Okay, so fine. Is that adequate for response for now? Very good. Let's
you.
proceed on that basis. You got that? Is that going to be an action item to remind me of what I promised to do? That's a pity.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so does that adequately address that agenda item? Bear Smart Committee. I can just give you a verbal update. So I met with the former chair of the Bear Smart Committee, Norma Rogers, as you all know. She's passionate about the success that we've achieved in the village, in that we haven't had any bear incidents in 2 years at all. There's a reason for that.
Absolutely.
And she would hate to see that work being lost, as would the CO, whose name is
Oh,
Peter.
Peter
yeah, Peter Busink.
Busink, thank
Yeah.
you, as are several other residents who were on the Bear Smart Committee. The discussion evolved to a suggestion that the Bear Smart Committee comprises one councillor with an advisory board that doesn't participate in any of the admin. They don't want reports, they don't want liability coverage, they don't want none of that stuff. They care about the bears. The committee would be me, or actually anybody, but I used to live right next door to Norma, so I'm very aware of the work. We had a bear come through both of our houses one day, and I got really interested. You've got to tell the kid, there's not a bear in the house, don't come and look, but when I tell you to go and lock the bathroom door, do it now. Why, Dad? So that was quite an experience. The bear in the house. So I'd be very happy to do it.
You're now a legitimate resident of Lions Bay, and that you had a bear in your house or in your yard, yeah.
I framed my garbage can lid.
Yeah.
So those were the bad old days. We do not want to go back to them. It doesn't just happen. The CO has made noises about Bear Smart status is not a slam dunk. You need to maintain it. It's not a post that you run past and now you're done. He continually checks. He was actually a member of our Bear Smart committee. He cares that much about the thing. So, I mean, the suggestion is that to meet the needs of our resident experts, they don't want none of this committee nonsense. I will be the committee, and I will report to council on. Do you think that'll work?
I don't know the parameters around an advisory board, but
I don't know either.
yeah, I would have to look into that, but at least it stays.
We don't wanna drop it, that's
Can
the
we take
issue.
this off the grid and just make it informal? There's no reason for this to be formal if you say.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So
I mean-
I sit down with him for coffee every now and again. We
Well,
decide things,
there you
and then I bring it to council and say we need to spend X dollars on
No
a new
committees, no
sign.
terms of reference, no nothing.
But
Well,
how
the committee
does
will have a term
council
of reference.
receive the committee reports and act on any recommendations from the?
I will be the committee of one.
Will that allow us to maintain Bear Smart? Because I thought that there were requirements that you have to have an official
That's
committee.
what I thought too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I believe it will.
You'd have to look at the requirements. and-
Yeah.
I mean, there's
and
the
go that
committee.
way. But the thing is, that stuff should be already in place if there's a
Yeah.
committee in existence, and we shouldn't have to change anything.
No, but the
We
And
just
committee
change
it's
the players.
practices. I think the practice is we just have to keep educating
Yeah,
the community, but I
that's
mean,
right.
if we don't have a committee and we were unfortunate to lose our status, it doesn't change the practices that are kind of ingrained in the community, as long as the village is able to keep promoting them.
The biggest onus would be when we have a public presence, like a special meeting where there's public things come up, whether it's highways and the RCMP are here talking. Bear Smart would be having some posters on the table and stuff like that. We're just doing the ongoing education with
Yeah.
residents.
But I think my sense around the table is we want to maintain official Bear Smart status, not just the practices.
Okay, I believe that requires a formal committee.
I think it does.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it just to satisfy the technical requirements, but the people that we have in the village do not want to be part of a committee. So I believe that we can have a committee of 1 or 2 council members. We can have any number of council members in a standing committee who are advised by a group of resident experts.
Subject matter experts.
Subject matter experts. So maybe it's a 2-person committee. It's a real committee. It brings recommendations, it does all the stuff that committees do. I believe that there's funding available. It's spotty, it's not every year, but there are occasionally monies available for education and so on and so forth. The committee will ask resident subject matter experts to do a presentation at the school, and they will be there. It meets their requirement. I believe it meets the technical requirements. As far as Norma's concerned, she says, yeah,
Yeah,
Peter would be
I
very
can
happy
find
with
out.
that.
It's relatively easy to search that.
And
out.
so we have a get together every now and again and make sure that we're doing our thing. And we do the official, does the Bear Smart Committee write a report?
Committees are supposed to report
No, I mean to the Bear Smart
council,
people.
but I don't know.
Who
I haven't,
adjudicates Bear Smart community status? Is that the CO's
No.
office?
There's a website that's got tons of information. It's called Bear Smart Communities or something. So that'll be I'll have to dig in.
Well, the committee will do that. We'll find out what's necessary. But,
That's you.
well, I'm looking for one more interested party.
Well, it's you and yourself.
Me, myself, and I.
Well, there's 3 of you then.
That's 5.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's leave it at that for now. I believe we don't even need a resolution, right?
Yeah, you just appoint yourself.
I appoint myself.
Yeah.
It's done. This has been a very high workload meeting for me. I think that's the best solution. I think it meets everybody's
Smokey the Bear
requirements.
looking at you saying,
Fletch.
Well, when the CEO comes in armed for bear, just to the community meeting, you realize that they're not messing around. All good?
it is.
Thank you.
Wood fibre LNG. Ruth's report on page 141. I trust we've all read it. It's good. It's ongoing. I made mention of this at Metro the other day. There was a big hoo-ha about the Trans Mountain Pipeline, and I said, you guys are missing the point here. There's a much bigger project coming up. Just as dangerous, if not more. And of course, West Van and Bowen were very grateful that I put myself in the crosshairs. of the chair who glared at me. But there it is. Anybody, anything? I speak to Ruth regularly, so I'll say thanks very much for that. Keep it coming. And we'll move on to 12F, which is deferred. Public questions and comments. This is the kind of audience we like. Attentive, interested.
Respectful.
Well, yeah. Okay, so we're going to move on. You sure? Nothing? Susan, come on. Okay. So before us is a resolution to close the meeting. I'll read the resolution. It's resolved that the Village of Lions Bay Council does close the May 19th regular council meeting to the public on the basis of matters to be considered under the following sections of the Community Charter. 91, which is, as we all very well know, having heard this several times before, that a part of a council meeting may be closed to the public if the subject matter being considered relates to one or more of the following. We have 2 today: personal information about an identifiable individual who's been considered for a municipal award of honour, or has offered to provide a gift to the municipality on condition of anonymity, and subsection C, labour relations, other employee relations. May I have a motion on that resolution and a second? All in favour? Opposed? There being none, that carries. Okay, so if you're not supposed to be here, you shouldn't be here. We're back in open meeting. Manny, can you handle the reporting out?
Report out that council had a staffing discussion and that a staffing update will be provided to the public in the next weekly e-post.
Fantastic, thanks. And motion to adjourn. Second, all in favour? Opposed? Carried. 30 seconds before